Make Walters your spot for this NFL season. All indoor TVs are preset and are first come, first serve. They're proud to show every NFL game every week.
There she goes, our baby.
Are we ready for this?
You added her to your AAA auto policy. With 24/7 claim support, she's covered.
Our AAA agent, you're here too?
We're always here for you. Visit AAA.com/insurance to get a quote today.
Irvin sets. Here's his pitch. Swung on, driven in the air to deep left field. Back goes Pinckney. He won't get there. It's gone. Goodbye. A home run for Heriberto Hernandez. His breakout season in the big leagues, his team-leading 19th home run. New career high for him with every one he hits. RBI number 52. And the Marlins lead by the score of 3-0. Runner Lyle goes. The pitch swung on. Line right center field. Coming on Perez into a dive, and he can't make the catch. Rounding third Lyle. He's coming home. Into second is Cruz. And rolling over in pain in right center field is Estuary Ruiz. It'll go in the books as a double for Dylan Cruz, his 12th RBI number 28, as Lyle comes all the way around from first to score, and it's now the Marlins 4, the Nationals 2. Now the pitch. Swinging a bouncing ball up the middle. Shaded right there was Lopez, the shortstop. The throw to Conine, and the game is over. A 1-2-3 inning for Calvin Fauché out of the bullpen to record a save. The Marlins bullpen perfect over the final 4 innings of the game after Eury Perez pitched the first 5, and good enough for Perez to get a victory. So the Marlins have clinched a series win. They now lead the season series 7-1. And the Nationals' record on this road trip falling to 1-7 heading into the finale tomorrow afternoon.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. My usual co-host, Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He is off for this installment of the podcast, but I'm joined by the creator, owner, and executive producer of the podcast, Tim Shover. So there was a time, not that long ago, in which the 2026 Washington Nationals were road warriors. So good on the road. We talked about that a bunch. That time is no more. The Nats now are just 2-14 over their last 16 road games. Yes, I said 2-14, a 4-2 loss at the Miami Marlins on Saturday in Game 2 of a 3-game series, dropping the Nats to 1-7 on their 9-game road trip that on paper seemed rather manageable. And we talked about that on this podcast, but little did we know what we were in store for here. The Nats so far 1-7 on this 9-game trip. The Nats in MLB's 2026 regular season overall now are 61-70, run differential of +14. The Marlins now are 66-64, run differential of +17. But good to have you with us. Hope that you're having a nice weekend. We are starting to plant the reminders for the 5th annual Nats Chat podcast party that is happening on Friday evening, October 2nd, is happening at the home base of the Nats Chat podcast, Walters Sports Bar, which is across the street from Nationals Park. More info on Walters at waltersdc.com. So the Nats, in so far going 1-7 on this 9-game road trip, have totaled a mere 18 runs. 18 runs over 8 games, not good. And if you look at just the 7 losses for the Nats on this road trip, the Nats have totaled just 12 runs over those 7 games. Now, we know what happened, right? The Nats, in the lead up to the 2026 MLB trade deadline, which was on August 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern, traded away 3 key players in infielder Curtis Mead, first baseman Luis Garcia Jr., and starting pitcher Foster Griffin. And the Nats, the next day, August 4th, announced having placed outfielder James Wood on the 10-day injured list due to a left oblique strain, and he remains on the 10-day IL. So diagnosing why the Nats offense is struggling isn't hard. But, Tim, that doesn't make what is happening any less jarring. This offense has gone from being borderline unstoppable to now being feeble, and 2-14 over the team's last 16 road games. Man, that is rough.
This is a very anemic offense. You look at this offense now that you see without CJ Abrams and without James Wood in it, and man, is it really weak. I mean, let me just read you the heart of the order. It's Brady House, Abimelec Ortiz, and Harry Ford. Harry Ford's hitting 5th in what is statistically, cumulatively, the top offense in Major League Baseball. I didn't have any hope of them coming through with the rally in the 9th inning, And it just seems like every single day is basically 1 or 2 runs. And as long as Abrams is out, and who knows what's going on there, and the James Wood thing is getting longer and longer and longer, another 10-day IL that is nowhere close to 10 days, I bet we'll have 1 or 2 more runs on Sunday. This is just what this offense is right now.
It's rough. You really could not have scripted worse timing for the James Wood injury, and the poetry of him getting hurt on MLB trade deadline day and then going on the 10-day injured list the day after MLB trade deadline day, a deadline in the lead up to which, as I just said, the Nats traded away 3 key guys. Like, you could not have scripted that in any more of a poetic fashion, in any more of a damaging fashion, I feel like. And then the cherry on top of the sundae is what you just mentioned. Shortstop CJ Abrams, dealing with this sprained left ankle, has yet to play in this series. You know, I have thought a lot about what has happened with this Nats season, as I'm sure many people listening to this podcast have thought a lot about what has happened to this Nats season. And, you know, the truth is, when it comes to what president of baseball operations Paul Toboni did in the lead up to the trade deadline, acting as a seller when the Nats were in legitimate playoff contention, I think it's an issue on which reasonable people can disagree. It's not always the case in sports, just like it's not always the case in life, to where there is a definite right answer and a definite wrong answer. Like, there is gray area in a lot of situations. And there with the Nats in the lead up to this deadline was gray area. And this was a rare circumstance in which there was an argument to be a buyer, there was an argument to be a seller, and there was an argument to stand pat and basically do nothing. Now, I don't think each argument was of equal value, okay? And I do agree with what Toboni ultimately did, but I recognize that this was a discussion. I recognize that there was a legitimate debate regarding what the Nats should do in the lead up to this deadline. And like a lot of people, I do wonder, what if Paul Toboni had chosen an alternate path? If you're old enough to remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books from back in the day, like, what if he had chosen an alternate way of going about handling that deadline? What if the Nats had been buyers, had kept Meade, had kept Garcia, had kept Griffin, and had added some more legitimate bullpen help, which was the obvious need going into the deadline? You know, what would we be talking about right now? Now, if James Wood and CJ Abrams still get injured, then maybe we have the worst of everything. The Nats didn't sell key pieces, but still aren't really doing that well because Wood and Abrams are injured. So, like, you know, a lot of thoughts go through your mind, but it's tough. And no matter where you were in the debate of what Toboni should do regarding the deadline, to see what has become of this Nats season, I mean, it is a really tough thing to process at this point. It's a really tough thing to digest right now. And the season has just gone off the rails from a result standpoint. Like, this team isn't winning lately and isn't winning these days because the team isn't scoring.
My problems are all wrapped up in the Curtis Meade trade. I did not now, the night of, I liked it. I said this on air. I did a quickie pod. I got to own that. You can go back and you can listen to it in real time. I did not realize that at that moment that Connolly Early got hurt against the Nationals. And Paul Toboni, the next day after that game, spoke to the media at Fenway Park because after the Kay Cavalli, Wilson Contreras incident. Now, I'm going to guess, I'm not saying for sure, but I'm guessing that he would have been there the night before. If he was in the building and saw Connolly Early get hurt, I just have a problem trading for a pitcher that you saw get hurt firsthand less than a month later. You're in the building. He's got an elbow issue. If you're going to trade for an injured pitcher, he better have a hangnail and be ready to go after 15 days. I don't think Connolly Early is going to pitch this season. And to swap Meade for an injured pitcher and then also not plan on having House playing every day. If his plan was, I'm going to trade Curtis Meade and then going into the biggest week of the season against Atlanta and Philly, I'm going to have Yorbit Vivas as my third baseman every other day. This is the thing that led to everything else, Al. It's not the Garcia and Griffin trade. By then, the damage was done. They were under 500. It was time to go. The trade deadline is the trade deadline. To me, it's all about the circumstances surrounding the Meade trade.
Now, of course, it's crazy what happened with Curtis Meade with Boston, right? He suffers a hit by pitch about 5 minutes into his stint with the Red Sox and gets injured. But there's no question, the Connolly Early scenario has gotten very frustrating. Connolly Early at the time of the trade was on the 15-day injured list due to left elbow inflammation. And, oh, by the way, the Nats on Saturday afternoon announced having transferred Early to the 60-day injured list. Now, that sounds worse than it is. The timeline for Connolly Early actually has not changed. when you get transferred from the 15-day IL to the 60-day IL, the days for which you've already been on the 15-day IL transfer in terms of how long you have to stay on the 60-day IL. So it's not like, the clock restarts now for Connolly Early. He still, in theory, could come off the 60-day injured list and pitch for the Nats at the major league level this season. But, raise your hand if you're optimistic about that happening. Raise your hand if you're bullish about this happening. Remember, the Nats made the Curtis Mead Connolly Early trade on July 26, 2026. The Nats announced the trade, as you may recall, in the 12 a.m. Eastern hour on Sunday, July 26. And one of the things that was said at the time was that Early was expected to start pitching in minor league games around, I think it was like August 6th was what people were saying. It was like early August, right? We were told that. We were hearing that. It sounds so funny now to say that. We are recording this podcast in the early evening hours of Saturday, August 22nd, and Connolly Early doesn't seem all that close to pitching in any games right now. And this notion of, the Curtis Mead Connolly Early trade being both a buy and a sell, well, yes, it was in theory. But the buy was for beyond this season. The buy was not for this season. And I never bought into this thing of, Connolly Early is going to help the Nats this season. I was hopeful that was the case. But when a pitcher, especially a young, promising starting pitcher, is on the 15-day IL with left elbow inflammation, you can't assume anything in terms of when that guy is going to be good to go. So, yeah, that has become a very frustrating circumstance. And the other frustration with all of this, and I've brought this up, and I'm going to continue to bring this up because I do think this is a big deal. Nobody else really is stepping up, save for, Abimelec Ortiz, who's done some good things. Andres Chaparro has done some good things. But beyond those two, who is really rolling right now? Who is really emerging right now? We, in previous recent Nats seasons, saw some guys really emerge late in seasons. Now, it wasn't always telling for what's to come, but, you think about Joey Meneses in August and September 2022. You think about Dalen Lyle in September 2025. We have seen some Nats players get ridiculously hot in certain months this season, but where is that right now? Because right now is when the Nats need that. And I've talked about, it's go time for Dylan Cruz. It's go time for Brady House. Cruz had an RBI double on Saturday, but we're just not seeing these guys who the Nats need to step up in this spot. And it is ugly right now with this offense, no question.
Without Abrams and Wood, it's a last place offense. They're about to be last place as a team pretty soon. And you talk about someone stepping up. It's hard for me to get mad when whoever's in the lineup right now was at best the fifth hitter on this team less than a month ago when it was Mead, Garcia, Wood, and Abrams. So, yes, I would love to see Cruz step up. I've kind of given up on Dylan Cruz for the year, and I'm hopeful that just something changes following this winter and we get the LSU guy. But to me, I'm not holding my breath on Cruz at the moment. And Keibert Ruiz is in the 700s on his OPS, but I'm not anticipating him becoming an 800 OPS player like he was in May. So, unless Ortiz catches fire, Al, this is what it is.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what you need right now is someone to catch fire. The Nats need someone to catch fire. As the great Bonnie Tyler sang many years ago, I need a hero. The Nats need a hero right now. There is no hero right now for this Nats team. Maybe one emerges, hopefully one emerges, but right now we need a hero. The Nats in this 4-2 loss at the Marlins on Saturday, 2 runs, 3 hits, which were a double and 2 singles. The Nats did work 3 walks, so went 1 for 2 with runners in scoring position. Yes, 2 at-bats with runners in scoring position the entire game. The Marlins starting pitcher was Eury Perez. He allowed 2 runs, 1 earned in 5 innings. He's having a good season, lowered his ERA to 3.17 over 23 games, all starts. But still, the Nats in this game struggled big time. I mentioned Dylan Cruz had the RBI double. Good to see that. He was the Nats starting right fielder and number 2 batter, 1 for 4. Cruz in the Nats 1-run fifth, a 2-out opposite field RBI double to right center field to cut the Nats deficit to 4-2, despite having been down in the count at 1.12.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month. Even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. Zero tiers. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
If you're like me, you're the kid who savored every last drop of sugary milk at the bottom of your cereal bowl while watching Saturday morning cartoons. Kachava's new flavor, Cinnamon French Toast, gives you a bit of that classic nostalgia. And I love that it's made with real cinnamon bark. It's a comfort flavor, but with benefits and without the sugary drawbacks. There's no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. It's non-GMO, there's no soy, there's no animal products, no gluten, and no preservatives. But Kachava does provide all the nutrition your body craves in one deliciously simple shake with just 2 scoops. So treat yourself to a childhood favorite. Go to Kachava.com and use code SPORTS for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, Kachava.com with code SPORTS.
There she goes, our baby.
Are we ready for this?
You added her to your AAA auto policy. With 24/7 claim support, she's covered.
Our AAA agent, you're here too?
We're always here for you. Visit AAA.com/insurance to get a quote today.
Don't you wish everything was more rewarding? With Rakuten, almost everything is. You can earn cash back on those new shoes you've been wanting. You can save on the next trip you book. You can cash in on groceries. Just join. Shop your favorite brands and save. Target, Instacart, Expedia, Macy's, Sephora, CVS. The list is long. Save online, in-store, and at over 22,000 restaurants. And when it's time to redeem those rewards, get your money exactly how you want it. Choose PayPal, check, Bilt points, or cash out with gift cards. Eligible American Express card members can choose to earn membership rewards points instead of cash back. Terms and conditions apply. So go ahead, take a trip, fill a cart, order dessert. Rakuten is a world of rewards. Join today for free. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's RAKUTEN.
Irvin sets. Here's his pitch. Swinging a line drive right field. Coming in is Cruz. He dives and he can't make the play. Ball ends up behind him. Both runners are going to score. Holding it first is Lopez as the throw comes in behind the mound, knocked down by the first baseman Ortiz. It's the Marlins 2 and the Nationals nothing. A great effort by Dylan Cruz on the dive. I mean, he laid out, took the gamble, but could not secure the ball.
The Nats starting pitcher in this 4-2 loss at the Miami Marlins on Saturday was Jake Irvin. His final line was 4 runs in 6 innings. Irvin's previous outing came in the Nats' 4-3 loss at the New York Mets last Sunday afternoon. He, in that game, allowed 4 runs in 6 innings. And I, on the installment of this podcast following that game, talked about how that has become your typical Jake Irvin line. 4 runs in 6 innings. And sure enough, he did it again in this game on Saturday. He gave up 6 hits, which were 2 home runs, a double, and 3 singles, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks, and a hit by pitch. He threw 104 pitches, 68 strikes, 36 balls. Jake Irvin right now is totally living in the Patrick Corbin Washington Nationals neighborhood of, yeah, he eats up some innings, that's true, but he gives up runs, gives up home runs, and you just have kind of come to recognize this is who he is. This isn't changing. There's nobody better at the moment who you feel like, okay, this guy should be brought into the rotation and, Irvin/Corbin should be exiled. But Jake Irvin has become Jake Corbin, okay? He is Jake Corbin. He is Patrick Irvin. Like, that's who Irvin is right now. And I feel like these last 2 outings capture that pretty well.
We are seeing the final starts of Jake Irvin in a Washington Nationals uniform. Maybe he's got 5 or 6 left. There's 30-plus games. We'll see how that goes. I do not anticipate him being a member of the Nationals come October or November. The ERA flirts with 6, so this is what you get. He eats the innings. I mean, you nailed it, Al. There's nothing more I could say to it to make it more perfect than that. Listen to Marlins radio. They were going through his pitch sequence. They were saying how, a lot of things are not competitive right now.
This is a guy that allows a lot of hard contact here. He's got some pitches that do have redeeming quality, but end of the day, Marlins should be able to barrel this guy up, and X hits a sharply hit ground ball right to the second baseman, Tena. He's got no problem. He tosses to first for out number 1.
No, you mentioned the last 4, 0-3 with a 7.32. You mentioned he has some good pitches. The four-seam fastball is a good one. He's got a really good curveball, the changeup. So those three pitches under 200 average against, the two-seamer cutter, the sweeper, they get annihilated.
And now, make this make sense for me. First pitch to Griffin Conine is in for a called strike one. The four-seam, opponents are hitting $192, and they've only homered against it twice.
Right.
The sinker, they're hitting 365 and 7 homers. Why would that make any sense?
Well, the only thing it's sinking is over the wall.
And he's given up big hits, and I have to say, he only gave up 4 runs because early on it looked like he was going to give up 6 or 7, and this game was going to get out of control. So he did settle it down. In terms of should Jake Irvin be in the rotation, again, your Patrick Corbin point is perfect because it doesn't seem like there's someone better. Rochester's rotation right now, it's basically 4 bullpen games, and then this guy named Chandler Champlain, and his numbers are okay. His ERA is under 4. He's not a big strikeout guy. We'll see what happens with him in September. But it's not like there's a bevy of arms waiting to get called up in Rochester. And there probably is no one better every 5 days than Jake Irvin.
Yeah, this organization has a real problem when it comes to pitching. And, going back to our earlier conversation about Paul Toboni deciding to be a seller regarding the trade deadline, I think one of the biggest reasons Toboni took that tact was because the organization is in dire need of more pitching. And look at what Toboni did, right? He, over those 4 trades, got 9 pitchers. He infused this organization with pitching. Now, did Toboni get the right guys? We'll see, okay? That's like a big part of all this. But this organization is desperate for pitching. There's no doubt about that. And, with Jake Irvin, he seems like a nice guy. There was a time not that long ago that we talked about Jake Irvin potentially being an organizational success story, given that the team took him in the 4th round of the 2018 first-year player draft out of the University of Oklahoma. I, at one point a few years ago, made the joke of, how about the irony here of the starting pitcher in the Nats organization drafted out of the University of Oklahoma, who is truly helping the Nats right now, is Jake Irvin and not Cade Cavalli. And that was yeah, that's true. Cavalli was doing nothing for the team, was looking like a bust. Irvin was actually looking like a nice find. And here we are now, late August 2026, and man, has the tide turned. Cavalli is on fire, and Jake Irvin is a big-time non-tender candidate. You look at Irvin now, in his time in terms of major league regular season outings, 106 games, all of which have been starts, 5.06 ERA, 134 whip. That's a pretty good sample size. I'm all for displaying patience with starting pitchers. Not all of the good ones are good right away. But man, 106 games, all of which have been starts, 566 innings, 5.06 ERA. At some point, you are who you are, and we may just have that here with Jake Irvin.
I feel badly for him that he didn't make the All-Star team in 2024. He deserved it that year. I don't have the numbers offhand, but you kind of knew in the moment that might be his only shot to become a Major League All-Star. We'll see what happens with the rest of his career, but I felt badly for him. And ever since the second half of 2024, it's just been different. And also, how you mentioned Oklahoma, the role reversals. Ever since Cade Cavalli comes back, Oklahoma wins the national title in college baseball. Eli Willis is the number 1 pick, and his brother wins the national championship for those very Sooners. So, a lot changed with the Cavalli fortunes turning up.
Yeah, Jake Irvin, for the 2024 regular season, through games on July 4th, had a 2.80 ERA. Like I said, there was a time in which we were excited about what the Nats might have in Jake Irvin, and a lot has changed, sadly, since then.
Back at Lone Depot Park in Miami, 27-year-old Erik Tolman is making his major league debut for the Nationals, wearing number 73. He's down in a crouch behind, saying a little prayer to himself. We documented his journey when he was called up. The ultimate story and perseverance for Erik Tolman to get to this moment. 2 Tommy John surgeries and 1 major right knee and foot injury. He gets ready for his first big league pitch facing Esti Uri Ruiz. The left-hander deals, fastball low at 96 miles an hour.
And you wouldn't know it watching him throw, Dave. Outside of the brace that's on his right foot and ankle and lower leg, you'd never know anything happened.
The Nats relief pitching in this 4-2 loss at the Miami Marlins on Saturday was good, was a bright spot. 2 Nats relievers combined for 2 scoreless innings. Erik Tolman in his MLB regular season debut tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th, and Jake Bird tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th. But nice to see Erik Tolman do as he did. We talked about his story a few episodes back. The Nats during the game put out a very nice post on X. I'll read to you what was written in the post. Quote, 14th round pick, 2 Tommy Johns, 1 entirely blown out knee, first MLB strikeout, end quote. A nice post by the Nats, a nice story in Erik Tolman. You know, the Nats this season have had a bunch of guys who have made their MLB regular season debuts. Pitchers Riley Cornelio, Eddie Jean, Jackson Kent, and now Erik Tolman. Position players Abimelec Ortiz and Andrew Pinckney. So we're used to this. Guys making their debuts, but the Tolman story really is bonkers. And just that he has pitched in a major league regular season game, forget about what might happen beyond this, but like that's a victory in and of itself for him.
One of the cool things about baseball is you have these incredible feel-good moments in the midst of a terrible stretch. Not a fun game, but if you watched it, all of a sudden, as your favorite team is losing, Tolman takes them out and they show his family, and his family obviously is beside themselves, enjoying and jubilation of him getting there. The story, man, I don't know if I've ever heard a story like this one. I mean, multiple Tommy Johns, and then the story about the blown out knee. If you go back to listen a few days ago, Mark talked about that briefly amputation was brought up when he was in the doctor's office. That's how badly it was. So this is some story. And then from the standpoint of him actually being a pitcher for the Nationals, he was effective. Let's see what happens next time out there. And hopefully he can be a bright spot in this bullpen for the final 5 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, his story is Alex Smith-like. You know, for those of you who are combo Washington Nationals, Washington Commanders fans, the saga of former Redskins quarterback Alex Smith and what he went through in 2018, you know, it's not that dissimilar from what Erik Tolman has gone through. By the way, just to put a capper on our Nats pitching conversation, so I mentioned the Nats on Saturday afternoon announcing having transferred starting pitcher Connolly Early to the 60-day injured list. Also from the Nats on Saturday afternoon was them announcing having claimed right-handed pitcher Matt Waldron on outright waivers from the Toronto Blue Jays. Matt Waldron is a knuckleballer. He has been both a starter and a reliever. The results have been a bit mixed, okay? So as has been the case with so many other pitchers who the Nats have acquired in season this season, you know, I don't know that we should get our expectations too high. But, you know, in this season that is going as it now is going, a little variety, a little diversity might be a good thing to spice things up. So I don't know about you, but a knuckleball throwing Washington Nationals reliever, I'm anxious to see that. I'm actually kind of pumped to see that, assuming that we do see that at some point.
I'm right there with you. I love knuckleballers. I love that R.A. Dickey won a Cy Young out of nowhere and enjoyed Tim Wakefield. No, I'm totally into knuckleballs as well. With that, variety is the spice of life. Al, I just want to say while I'm on the mic, I'm all for Trey Lipscomb and Seaver King getting called up ASAP. And along with that, whenever CJ Abrams moved to second base. But anyone in the system that deserves a look at the big league level, it's time now in my book.
I am totally in agreement with you. And, you know, I brought this up when we first heard about the CJ Abrams sprained left ankle. Is it looking like he may wind up on the 10-day injured list? And the thinking at the time was no. Here we are multiple days later. He still has not played. Now we'll see what happens come Sunday. But if Abrams does not play on Sunday, then I think at that point you have to ask, did the Nats make a mistake in not putting Abrams on the 10-day injured list? But we'll see. Let's see if Abrams does in fact play on Sunday. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Before we call it a show, I mentioned this toward the end of the last installment of the podcast. We have a special interview that we're about to play, an interview that Tim conducted multiple years ago. And this is quite the tale. So since you did the work, why don't you set the table here for what we're about to hear?
In a previous podcasting life, this is back in 2020. This is early COVID. Right away, I was at NBC Sports Washington at the time, and my co-host Chase Hughes and I spoke to John Patterson, who is a starting pitcher on the original 2005 Washington Nationals team. I'm sure many of you remember his name. And he was on the interview circuit. He just released a book at the time, and Chase and I spoke to him for over 20 minutes. And it was COVID, and weird things in the working world happened. I'm sure many of you experienced similar things. And long story short, I wasn't with that podcast anymore. And that interview got lost in the shuffle, but it stayed on my Google Drive for years and years and years. And I never wanted to delete it, sort of just saw it. It was this Patterson Raw hanging there, and I never deleted the file. And this month has been so bad, I figured, hey, let's throw in something that could put a smile on Nats fans' face, because a victory when Kay Cavalli isn't on the mound is impossible these days, it seems like. And so I just thought this was a good time to hear this interview with John Patterson. Chase and I spoke with him. It's an edited version. It's just a few minutes. It's a 5-minute quick interview. And also while I'm here, I just want to tout Chase Hughes' work. You've heard him on this podcast before. We talked about the Wizards briefly this summer. Chase covers the Wizards. He's also on the Radio Network sidelines. He is your guy. If you want to know about A.J. DeBonce's rookie year, recommend you follow Chase Hughes on all your platforms. But here now is Chase and I's conversation from May of 2020 with John Patterson.
Here's the set and the pitch. Strike 3 called on the outside corner. This game is over. A fastball at 89 miles an hour gets Chase Utley looking to end the ball game, and at 9:46 Eastern Time on April the 6th, 2005. There is the first victory in the history of the Washington Nationals, highlighted by Brad Wilkerson becoming the 26th player in Major League history to hit for the cycle twice in his young career.
You were with the Expos in that final season in 2004 before they moved. Where were you when you found out officially that the team was moving from Montreal to D.C. and that all of a sudden your life was getting turned upside down like everyone else's?
Yeah. Gosh, I don't remember exactly. I want to say we were in Montreal, and it was such a strange feeling, because that whole year we had played in Puerto Rico, and then we're in Montreal, and there'd be like 500 people in the stands, and we were just so lost. I mean, like, there really was. I mean, it was great to be in the big leagues. It was great to be, playing and competing, but we were so lost. So to finally just get that news, like, hey, you're going to D.C., and they're really excited to have you, was an amazing feeling, and we were all really, really pumped up, ready for spring training to start. It was good to have a home.
You played those first few years of the Nationals franchise when they were in Washington. I'm curious, what was it like off the field as a big leaguer in D.C. in the early days? Because this was before social media, and I would imagine it took some time for the town to get to know who the players were.
Yeah, it was, for me, extremely exciting. I lived in the district. A lot of guys lived out either in Virginia or Maryland. There was me, Brad Wilkerson, Joey Eishen. There were a few of us that lived in the district. And I loved the energy of it. I loved driving to the ballpark every day, and I would drive, past all the monuments. And, it just had a feel that you can't get anywhere else, right? I didn't do a whole lot. I was very strict. Like, I was coming off of addictions and being traded, and so I didn't drink, I didn't go out, I didn't do a ton of that. I had a couple of local spots that I would go to when I could go eat dinner, and I would hang out and do some things like that. But for the most part, I didn't do anything until the last week of the season, that last homestand, and we had the Nationals Gala, the very first one, which was really cool. I was kind of entertaining possible owners. They were those who was at my table, so it was kind of to be all cool and calm, and then here comes Miss DC. She walks up and ended up being my wife, ended up being who I married. So she walks up, asked me if we could take a picture. It was cool, man. It was just like, I asked her out. We went to Old Ebbets Grill. And so that's kind of how my first year went in D.C. Amazing year, met my wife, and really could not have been a better summer for me for a ton of reasons. It was great.
I'm glad that worked out for you. I once went on a first date to Old Ebbets Grill. Didn't really there, so I'm glad you had a different ending than I did.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Like, we walked into Old Ebbets and we went to the bar in the back and got a table. And as we walk in, Ron Darling was sitting there with I can't remember the TV guy's name.
Mel Proctor?
Mel Proctor and Ron Darling are sitting there at the bar. So he actually comes over, sits down at the table, and we all have this conversation, on my first date with my future wife. It's pretty cool.
My old Epic Grill story, the last time I went there, it was real late. It was after a Wizards game, and Dave Chappelle walked in with a friend and took a booth. And it was late enough where there were a lot of drunk people, and everyone just kept walking by, like yelling his catchphrases from Chappelle's show. And this was like 15 years after the show. That was an experience. What about Livan Hernandez? What do you remember about being his teammate? Because it seemed like he's a bit of a quirky guy.
Yeah, Livan was a lot of fun. I enjoyed his personality. He was a competitor. He always was buying stuff. Like he would have a Ferrari or a new Lamborghini. You pull into the parking lot, you're like, Livan got another new car. It was some cool car that you got to see, which was fun. But what I remember most about him was his ability to pitch. He was a guy that, when he came into the league, threw 96, 97 miles an hour, and then played the last 10 years of his career throwing the ball mid-80s, changing speeds, and to throw the ball to any location at any time with any pitch. That's hard to do, and he was able to do it very, very successfully. So that's what I remember about him.
John, what did it mean to you, Game 3 of the World Series last year, that two of your teammates from that 05 season got to be, part of history, and Chad Cordero got to throw out the first pitch, and Brian Schneider was behind home plate, and the 2005 Nats had their moment on baseball's biggest stage? Yeah,
it was great. I was so happy for both of them. I'd seen the article like a week before that Barry Zerluga had written about bringing all the Nats back, and so I had my fingers crossed that they would bring us all in. That was going to be an amazing moment, just like the All-Star game was a few years ago. But for them, I thought that was amazing. I think it was the right thing to do to bring back some of the original guys, the guys that actually won that first home game, finished it up. It was very, very cool.
Fly ball, center field, Lofton. Drifting back, going back. He is not going to get it. It bounces up over the fence, and it's a ground rule double. It will keep Schneider from scoring as he will be sent back to third, but it gives Brad Wilkerson the cycle. Well, how about that for a Washington Nationals first ever?